For being here today. Antoine Thompson, Executive Director for the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition. Really glad that we can be here together today. We got two good speakers, and I see a number of our members and stakeholders here from all over the region, and some from outside of the area as well. I want to give a quick plug to Ron Flowers, the former executive director for Greater Washington, for being on. I see Tim Fitzgerald, one of our board members. I see a number of our members on and some non-members. So if you're not a member, we'd love for you to become a member of our great organization. We're doing a lot of great things as well. I want to first just start with some quick announcements. The first is that this weekend, there's going to be an Electrify Expo at RFK Stadium in DC. So come on out to that. GWRCCC will have a booth out there on Saturday and Sunday. So I'll be out with our team. The team will be out, and I'm going to come out for a little bit and spend some time with them. But we will be doing some outreach on some of our programs, our electric school bus program, our charging programs, our multi-unit dwelling, our workplace charging, and our level 2 and 3 programs as well. So look for us. We'll have a lot of good information. We're also doing an EV survey. We've been doing that for a while, so we'll be ramping that up with some outreach on Saturday. Hopefully we can get a few hundred people to fill out the survey form at the Saturday and Sunday. Just a couple other quick announcements. We have on next week a Fleet Equity Forum. I think that's on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, July 25th. So we're looking forward to that to talk about EV fleet equity. We are rolling out a fleet equity guide. We'll be releasing that at our annual conference in October. And so we're ramping up that for the release of that document, which we've been working on for over a year. So we'll have that ready to roll. Also, green drinks, those small business folks, that'll be next week. Bridging the gap. Funding gap with charging as a service. That will take place on July 27th. July 27th will be that event. I believe that's at 11 a.m. as well. So we're really excited about that. Then save the date. We're having our annual conference and stakeholder awards luncheon meeting. We'll have a display of vehicles out there. So all these EV folks, if you got some EVs and we want you to bring them out for the, we'll have all different vehicles, but of course we'll have some electric vehicles. Want to thank our folks, Bob and his team who always bring out vehicles at different events that we have. Thanks, Bob, with all our electric vehicle drivers, Bob Erdman. I want to also say at that event, we'll have a happy hour as well. There'll be exhibitor space as well. And we're looking for sponsorship too. So it should be an amazing event. We'll be releasing registration on Monday. And so there'll be a nice early bird rate. We'll also be announcing our awards. So sometime between now and next week, probably next Friday, we'll put out our awards so you can nominate people for awards as well. Just a couple other things. There are some funding opportunities as well. We'll talk about some of those on one of our other calls, but there is a qualified energy project credit as well, the Advanced Energy Project Credit. Concept papers are due July 31st as well. I will say that if you've not commented, Councilmember Charles Allen is trying to increase EV charging in DC and in District of Columbia. I've not commented on making some recommendations to the council member. Please do that. I think comments are due sometime next week, and so make sure you do that. I'm going to get right into it now. We got number 2 speakers today, and I want to give before I do that, I want to give a quick shout out to Tim Fitzgerald, who's on our board. He's the fleet administrator for DC government, and we're going to get him on one of these panels as well. I think we're trying to have him speak next week if his schedule permits. But the Tim is leading the effort around putting EV charging in many of the buildings in DC for the district. So we're excited. We're praying that he becomes the EV czar for all of DC. We're gonna speak that into the existence, as my mom would say. So we're gonna pray for that. But we're making it. He's doing a great job to get those EV charging up in the district, not just with the vehicles, but also where people can charge as well with DC Public Works. All right, so we're going to get right into it right now. Louise McDonald, Laurel, well, Louise will be second. Laurel Mac Wilson, who does outreach and also marketing for our office. She also works on our electric school bus program, and she is new to our team, been here almost a year, originally from Seattle, Washington, and is learning a lot, and so she'll be doing a presentation on EV 101 as well. We'll also have Louise McDonald, who is a charter member of the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition Board, and with Clean Cities as well. He was there when President Clinton signed the Clean Cities into law 30 years ago. This is the 30th anniversary of Clean Cities. And so that's one of the reasons why you want to make sure you come to our conference October 4th in Largo, Maryland. He is the president of AutoFlex Fleet, a GSA scheduled federal contractor. He is certified in many states and also with SBA and all those other good groups. And he has been doing EV charging for many, many years, long before it was popular. It was attractive and trendy. And I think he put some of the first charging in the post offices in DC many years ago. So we got a great group, and he just bought him a new EV that he brought to our Ron Flowers golf tournament a couple months ago. So without further ado, we're going to go right into Laurel Mac Wilson, who will do a presentation, and then we'll bring up Louise McDonald. All right, Laurel, the floor is yours.
Great. Kim, if you can pull up my presentation, please. Everyone can see the screen? Great. Okay, so welcome to EV 101. This is a general presentation about electric vehicles, electric charging, and tax incentives that have come out recently. Next slide, please. So electric vehicles at a glance, just real quick, some quick facts about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles offer efficient, cleaner alternatives to gas and diesel vehicles. They can charge while the driver does other things, reducing drive time on trips to the gas station. So for instance, you can charge at home overnight, you can charge at the grocery store, you can charge at the workplace. There are places that have sidewalk charging. You can charge at church. They're becoming much more prevalent. So it's easier for you to charge your electric vehicle while you're out and about. And lastly, many states and cities offer incentives for purchasing electric vehicles, such as tax credits, rebate programs to lower upfront costs. So the higher cost upfront for an electric vehicle offsets over time due to the cheaper cost of electricity compared to gas and diesel. And generally, electric vehicles have lower maintenance costs. Next slide. So these are the three different types of electric and hybrid vehicles. First off, we have a battery electric vehicle, or a BEV, which is fully electric, rechargeable, battery powered. They get 100 to 400 miles on a single charge, and there's no tailpipe emissions because there is no gas being used. And they also have regenerative braking. And just so we're all on the same page, regenerative braking means that you are getting battery power from braking, which is really, really cool. Plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, or PHEVs, have both gas and electric capability, meaning that they have increased fuel efficiency, resulting in lower tailpipe emissions. You get around 50 miles on electric, and they also have regenerative braking. Last, we have hybrid electric vehicles, or HEVs, which are equipped with both gas and electric capabilities, meaning that you have increased fuel efficiency, and they have a battery, but it doesn't charge. Like, you don't have to plug it in, and the battery is charged specifically from regenerative braking. Next slide. And so now that we have that general information about electric vehicles, we did want to give you some more affordable options for electric vehicles outside of just Tesla, right? Tesla is the most popular, and it is also one of the most expensive electric vehicles on the market, but there actually are quite a few newer electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles that have been made available over the last couple of years. It isn't just the Prius anymore either, right? So we have the Nissan Leaf, we have the Chevy Bolt, there's a new electric truck, the Ford F-150, which is really cool. As I mentioned earlier, there's the Prius for a hybrid, Kia Niro, Ford Escape. I have a whole list of them, but there are a bunch of different electric vehicles being put out on the market right now. So when you're thinking, oh, I would like an electric vehicle, but like they're way out of my price range, they tend to be luxury cars, that isn't always the case. And if this is out of your price range, if you can find a used electric vehicle, that's also a good option for you, just to keep them more affordable. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now we're moving on to chargers. So there are three different types of electric chargers that vary in the amount of time that it takes to charge. So there's the level 1, which is the most basic, equipped for a standard outlet. So like you could plug this into the outlet on the side of your house. You can buy level 1 chargers at Costco now, like little mini ones. And they add 2 to 5 miles of range per hour of charging, right? So it takes a while to charge, but you could charge it overnight or over a certain amount of time. And battery electric vehicle charge time can be upwards of 40 hours. So it's much more efficient for a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Level 2 is the most common charger that requires little to no electrical upgrade. So that we're all on the same page, the reason that it's so important that, all of these bills have been passing lately about upgrading the electrical grid is because the demand on the electric grid from electric cars and natural disasters, etc., is going to increase. So it's really important that electric grids are improved with the release of more electric vehicles and the use of more electric vehicles. But a level 2 requires little to no electrical upgrade. And they add 10 to 30 miles of range per hour and 4 to 10 hours for a full charge. So that's a good overnight charging time. Last is the level 3 or DC fast chargers, and they're the fastest and most efficient. They add 100 to 200 plus miles of range in as little as 30 minutes. So this would be the type of charger that you would want, say, if you were like stopping at a public charging station, or if you were running into the store real quick. This is the type of charger that you would want, but typically level 2 chargers are the most commonly used. Next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the environmental benefits of electric vehicles, right? Typically, when you think of EVs, you think, oh, they're good because they don't have tailpipe emissions that contribute to climate change, right? Amazing, awesome. But the other thing that's really important to think about is that electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids tackle the largest contributor of US greenhouse gas emissions, which is the transportation sector. Right now, the transportation sector is about 27 to 30% of the US's greenhouse gas emissions. And so if we're going to reduce those gas emissions, it's really important to start transferring our transportation sector to electric, but not even just electric. There are a lot of other options such as hydrogen powered, biodiesel powered, etc. Additionally, using EVs or hybrids improve air quality, meaning that there's fewer greenhouse gas emissions and reduced pollutants. Battery electric vehicles produce zero greenhouse gas emissions, which is really great. And then plug-in hybrids emit much lower greenhouse gas emissions compared to a solely gas or diesel vehicle. So if you're trying to, save the planet in any way that you can, transitioning to a different type of fuel for your vehicle is definitely a good first step. Next slide. So not only are EVs and hybrids good for the environment, but they're also good for our communities. Clean energy has health benefits that benefit everyone, right? Underserved communities tend to experience disproportionate health risks such as asthma, cancer, and other respiratory illnesses. And a big leading factor of that is that these communities tend to be on or close to major highways, major thoroughfares. They're close to bus depots that are consistently emitting a bunch of emissions. And so reducing that also means that we're saving our communities and making our kids and our families healthier. And such as, the Clean Trucks Act in Maryland is a really big deal, right? That means that they are taking the steps to make sure that, we aren't giving people asthma with our vehicles, which is what has happened in the past. Next slide. So what is GWRCCC doing? We have a few programs going on right now. We do a lot of advocacy and outreach, such as this meeting today, but we do have 2 programs going on. So we have the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Partnership. And if you scan the QR code on your screen for MAEP, you can suggest a location for a public charging station in your neighborhood, which is really cool. We're trying to help increase the amount of available charging stations in not just affluent areas, but maybe low-income areas, so that it makes the transition to electric vehicles smoother, right? It's like a chicken and an egg thing. Some people say, well, I don't have any charging in my neighborhood, so it doesn't make sense for me to have an electric vehicle. And we're trying to mitigate that and make it easier for people to make the leap. And then we also have the Mid-Atlantic Electric School Bus Experience Project, MEEP. And basically what we do is we help people learn more about electric school buses and their impact on children's health when they're on the bus going to school. Being on a full gas or diesel bus is not good for children's health. Again, those emissions, the kids end up sitting on the bus with those emissions. So it's a lot better to transition the country's fleets over to electric school buses. And that's what the MEEP is about. Next slide. Can I have the next slide, please, Kim?
I did it.
Okay, thank you. Our Wi-Fi slowed down. I just didn't see it pop up. Thank you. So last but not least, where's the money at, right? There are a lot of tax incentives out right now. So there are federal tax credits of $2,500 to $7,500 available for EV purchases under $50,000. Utility companies tend to offer incentives for home charger installation as well as off-peak hour charging, meaning that you aren't charging, meaning that if you don't charge while the grid is at its highest capacity, then you don't pay quite so much for it. And if you would like to search relative incentives based on your state, city, utility company, you can go to the Alternative Fuels Data Center's federal and state laws database, which is at that link, afdc.energy.gov/laws. There's also the electric vehicle costs and savings calculator. This link, and then you can get more information about electricvehicles.org, and we will send out this presentation afterward. And I think that is all. Any questions?
All right, we'll hold questions to the end.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I want to next go to Luis McDonald, who's a EV driver, and I want to buy that car you bought for $3,000 too. Let me just say this before I bring up Luis. There is a perception out there, folks, and I know we have some people who are not EV drivers. We have some EV enthusiasts on the call as well. You can buy a used EV, right? Like a lot of times people, when you say electric vehicle, you can buy a used one and you can buy a new one. We actually have one of our members. He's not on today. He's doing one of these presentations for us. And he actually has a vehicle that you can go up to, I think, 25 miles per hour. Paul Ventrano, I don't see Paul on today. His vehicle you can buy $15,000. And Luis will tell you, Luis bought a used vehicle last year for, Luis, how much did you buy your vehicle for?
Yeah, it was in the $3,000 range. It was a vehicle that was a dealership that was going out of business, and it was kind of a showpiece. So
yeah, and I've been trying to get that car from Luis ever since he bought it. Without further ado, let me bring up Luis McDonald for his part of the presentation. Thank you.
Hey, listen, Laurel, you're a tough act to follow. That was a very good PowerPoint presentation. Really good on the EV 101, and I appreciate this opportunity to share my EV 101 story. It actually goes back about 20 years. I was a contractor to Ford Motor Company on the West Coast, installing EV charging stations at post offices all up and down California. This was 1999 through 2001, 2002. So while I was out there, I was told that these low-speed electric vehicles manufactured by Global Electric Motor Cars, it was a Chrysler product, right? Were, on the West Coast, they were going to head east one day. And I was told, I should drive one. So I bought one. I brought it to Maryland, where I live, and went to the motor vehicle department, tried to get it registered because it was, street legal. But MVA said, "Oh, sorry, we can't do this. We don't have any authority." So we spent 2 years going into Annapolis to get the legislation passed for low-speed electric vehicles, which can be driven on streets of 30 miles and under. Okay, so that was my first vehicle. I had like a 2003 GEM low-speed electric vehicle. which we just plugged into a 110 outlet, and overnight you had a full charge. So it was really nice. We had a good time with it. We went in some parades and things like that. People were interested in, like kicking the tires and everything. But I actually currently operate 2 electric vehicles. One is the vehicle that Antoine wants. That is a Think City electric. Think City is a Norwegian company that was purchased by Ford Motor Company. And this was right around 1999. And that was the technology that was used for the Ford Ranger pickups that were converted into, Grumman body for the post office. And we did about 500 of those vehicles, Ford did. And I was asked to put in the charging stations for that. But the Think City program, obviously, I supported. And in 2011, we were leasing them to the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there were a number of those vehicles came into the marketplace. And then, actually, it's been more like 2 years now. Well, shoot, going on 3 years that I found a nice little deal on one of those 2011s. And so bought it, and it's a great little car. We drive it around, the neighborhood in town, and great for grocery shopping, that kind of thing. And we have a 110 outlet for that. But just recently, in the last couple of months, because I'm kind of a sales guy and I travel, I do have range anxiety. So at this stage of the marketplace, I felt more comfortable going with a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Okay, and we've got the Hyundai Santa Fe SUV, which is a good size for a big guy like me, right? And so we actually got a little 240 outlet plugins for level 2 charging at home, and so that makes sense when you've got a level 2 vehicle like that.
How much did that upgrade to the plug cost you for your house?
Well, the plug itself was the OEM was it's like a $350 240 outlet, and about the same amount for an electrician to come out and get your system to installed. Okay, so that is that's one of your options if you want to operate level 2s. Obviously, there's many OEM models right now. I mean, somebody told me it was like 200 or 300 OEM charging station manufacturers now in the United States. So I mean, there's much to pick from, but we feel that we've got some good insight and experience, actual working experience. We I know Ron Flowers is on the call, so I mean, when he was the head of the NAFA back in the day, we were supporting alternative fuel vehicles, and we had events for that. And so we have seen the first generation of the alternative fuel vehicles. It's been a horse race, really, and now in the final stretch, it looks like electric vehicles are taking the lead, and have taken the lead and are getting the funding. But just recently, really, there's many new manufacturers coming in. I believe the hardware and the software technology is improving, getting better, better connectivity, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi connections. So it's kind of exciting, we're involved not just in level or light duty, but medium and heavy duty electric vehicles. And obviously there's a need for the level 2 and level 3 charging. Okay, that's going to be needed to support all the infrastructure. And obviously everything has to be coordinated with the local utilities, because as Laura was talking about, the grid, that's a very key factor in your calculating what the loads are going to be and the load management and installation plans accordingly. So it's exciting. They're very exciting times right now. And I think the Greater Washington Clean Cities Coalition is definitely a leader to help guide people and steer them in the right direction on all this, because there's just so many choices out there to select from. But you know, our EV 101 story is, you know, we're in the business of the fleet electrification. And so I operate a 100% electric and a plug-in hybrid electric. Maybe we'll very well get another low-speed vehicles there. They're coming back. You know, some really good ones are coming out again. And so I'm excited about that. Let's see. I did not have a PowerPoint presentation. I just wanted to just share my brief story background on EV 101, and I guess I'm just ready to take some questions.
Yes, we're going to do that. So let me get just a couple quick questions for you, since you're a longtime EV driver. The first, I think we lost him. I don't know what happened, Kim.
He's here.
Oh, maybe that might be my computer. So Luis, you have you talked about range anxiety. Can you tell what that's about? I mean, like, you know, I've heard this thing about range anxiety. I know, can you share what that means and what, you know, for those, and then I'll have my follow-up question. What is range anxiety to you?
Well, I'll give you an example of range anxiety experience. Last year, I went to Washington, D.C. to attend a symposium with the Department of Transportation headquarters. I was actually going to be speaking, so went to a hotel the night before, across the street from the headquarters, and I plugged into the hotel charging stations downstairs in the garage, went over to the event, and you know, when it ended, I went back to the vehicle to drive back, and the charging had not worked. Okay. So I was in a position where I don't have enough of a charge to get back home, right? So that gives you range anxiety right there, right? So we went on the app looking for local charging stations, went over to Union Station. They didn't have level 2. It was just level 3, you know, and I had a vehicle. I drove that Think City, and it was, you know, not equipped for that level 3 charging. So went to like 2 or 3 places, and either they were not available, couldn't get access. So you know, that was quite an experience. You know, and I know many people that have had similar experiences going to recharge their vehicles and finding out that the charging station either has been vandalized, doesn't operate, or something with the software, and it's not able to recharge. You know, there's statistics now that you know, 30 to 40% of existing charging stations are not operating as they should. So this needs to be addressed. This is why it's important for the public-private partnership to address that, and you know, to create an infrastructure that is going to be accessible and operable. You know, and you know, we need to have the manufacturers of the vehicles and of the charging stations to support the training and the creation of new jobs for folks that can help troubleshoot the range anxiety that's out there currently. You know, it's something that we can address and resolve moving forward. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited about that challenge.
So let me so just a couple of things for folks that, and feel free to put some things in the chat. I'm just double check the chat really quick. All right. First thing, can I get this presentation? Get this presentation for information. Yes, we'll do that. There was a question as well about vehicles being less than 25,000. That is available now, and that will be increasing I know that Ford and Chevy are driving down the price of that, and as I think was mentioned earlier by Tyler, as well, that even Tesla will be looking to come up with possibly a model that's cheaper as well. And Tim Fitzgerald, so are you working on certifications for technicians and things of that nature? The short answer is yes. GWR-CCC actually is working on a number of, we just got awarded a grant with Department of Energy a couple of months ago. That program will be up and running soon. We'll be working with community colleges and others to provide technician training as well, and then hopefully with some of our members and partners, we'll be looking at that as well. I know that we're working with the Luis's office and a veterans group to offer customer service assistance, because so many of these companies and charging suppliers and vendors need better customer service. I will say to all of you that are listening, you know, we all get anxiety, right? Like when your cell phone is about to die, you get anxiety, right? Anyone want to hear ever got that anxiety when their cell phone is about to die and they're not near a plug, right? So it's not uncommon. The same is true if you're driving a gas-powered car, right? And you get less, because I know no one on this call ever drives below a quarter of a tank. But some of us that do, you know, when it gets down that below that quarter of a tank, we start looking at the tank a little more. Unfortunately, the other thing that you should know is that years ago, the first cars that were around were electric, and the Model T came up, and which was a Ford vehicle, and they decided to go with gas as opposed to electric. So electric's been around a long time, and it will only grow. Luis pointed out correctly that there has been an issue with charger reliability. This is probably why Ford and GM made agreements to allow their EVs to use the Tesla superchargers, which have a 99.5% uptime. And so there's going to be continued reform. I was going to mention that most of the American car companies within the next 3 years will no longer make new cars that are powered by gas or combustion engines. So this is happening fast. I think what we need to do is we will continue to have these sessions, not only on Zoom, but we'll also have them bi-monthly in person. And what our office is doing, we're going into many underserved areas at tabling and doing all different type of creative ways to get vehicles and this education and outreach in places where people don't know. I can tell you our office is in 14th and U right now, and we always, whenever we're doing an event, wherever, even when I'm coming into the building, more and more people are stopping by the office asking about job opportunities, EV questions. We got to do more to educate people about the transfer of electrification. Before I go to Laurel for a quick question, I will just share this with you. In my previous life, I was a city council member in Buffalo, then a state senator. And I remember years ago, my mom used to teach a class, a computer class in the early 2000s for seniors on, because a lot of seniors didn't know about computers, and this was rapidly growing. And so they offered a lot of technology classes at community centers, at churches for youth and seniors, so that people could become more comfortable with this rapidly changing technology. We have to do the same thing with electric vehicles. This is really our .com moment. For the older people, you remember the explosion of all these internet companies in the 90s and early 2000s. And that's the same thing that's happening right now with electric vehicles. As Luis indicated, they're exploding. This is not the future. This is now. The number of people that drive electric vehicles will dramatically increase every year, every day. And as they always say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, and we cannot let anyone get left behind. So I'm going to go really quickly to Laurel about the question was, as a younger person, what are you hearing from your friends about electric vehicles, and what are some of their thoughts about it and some of their concerns?
So, I have more friends who have hybrids. So most of my friends who, ended up with a hand-me-down Prius or something, they're like, oh my gosh, I really love my car. I like that I don't have to spend so much on gas. I like that I can get pretty far on a charge. So that's the biggest thing that I've heard. But I think what's hard about electric specifically is that people think of them as considerably more expensive. And so that's why most of my friends, I don't know that I know anyone with a completely electric car who is my age. But I also know that a lot of my friends care about climate change. And so they're saying, well, this car, like I can't afford an electric car this time, but the next time that I get a car, it will be a hybrid or electric. That's what I think. I don't have a car right now. But when I do get a car again, I'll make sure that it isn't a fully gas or diesel car. So I think for younger folk, the biggest problem is financial, but it isn't for lack of wanting. The spirit is willing, but the bank account is weak.
All right. All right. Well, I want to thank Luis. Any final comments before I go to announcements?
Well, just to follow up on what Laurel just talked about, young people not being able to afford that. One of the areas that I've been looking at, well, obviously, I'm a big supporter and advocate for leasing versus purchasing. Okay. I'm old school. That's my core competency is leasing of fleet vehicles. So I believe that the future of electric vehicles, because of the tax credits available, rebates, and other incentives in all the different states, is something that the young people should try to leverage and take advantage of. The other part of it is a lot of these vehicles that are out there, most people replace their vehicles after 3, 4, 5 years. Okay. So there's going to be a whole need for a secondary market development. So maybe some of these young folks can lease a 4 or 5 year old vehicle that's come off lease, and they could afford it. They could put it into their budget, and just be a lot more feasible. So these are the kinds of things that we need to look at and think about and support, and have programs that create those types of incentives so that younger folks can drive electric.
Thank you. Great points. I'm going to just send these last couple comments. First, let me thank our speakers today. Laurel did a fantastic job, and Luis did a fantastic job as well. Double L's, twice as strong. And I want to just make a couple quick announcements. Again, on July 25th, we'll have a EV Fleet Equity Forum. We'll talk about the urgency to make sure that as companies, both public and private sector, electrify their fleet, that they do it with the equity lens. Just buying vehicles and deploying them is not enough. We've got to make sure the entire ecosystem is equitable, from the planning to the procurement to the technicians to where those vehicles are actually deployed, how often they're deployed, that all those things are done from a position of equity. So we'll hear what some folks are doing. We'll also offer some recommendations on how they can do that in an equitable manner. Next, we'll July 26th, the 27th, we'll have the bridging the funding gap with charging as a service. That's on July 27th at 11 a.m. We have some great events coming up with other fuels in September and October and August and September. But also remember to save the date, October 4th, annual conference, awards luncheon, opening ceremony, closing ceremony, alternative vehicle, fuel vehicle display, propane, natural gas, electric, biodiesel, hydrogen cars. And we'll also have a happy hour as well. A lot of networking, some powerful speakers from all over the country will be there. So save the date. Registration will open on Monday. So stay tuned as well. And don't forget to become a member of our organization. If you like what we do and you say, I'm not ready to be a member, but I want to support their work, you can go right to gwrccc.org and make a tax exempt and charitable contribution. We are a 501c3 organization, standalone nonprofit. So thank you. Without further ado, we'll see you next time. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And I want to thank all of our speakers and our staff and consultants for making this happen. Have a great day. Bye-bye.